Our featured guest is Alex Sujung Kim Pang. Welcome, Alex.
My dissertation was on 19th century astronomical expeditions. The shape of technologies is neither natural nor inevitable. Understanding how the world is made and how it can be made better.
We are now hackable animals.
What we're dealing with now, though, are technologies that are never really under our control.
All these really good ideas. We're all working at home.
Maybe would you tell us about the anecdote about Winston Churchill?
It also mature by letting it come.
Most manual labor, it turns out, is a lot more creative than we think.
I want to ask my father what he is doing and he has done to help protecting all those natural resources.
Hace parte fundamental.
So now let's take a look at next Wednesday. Natalia Villanueva García. Goodbye and see you next week. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by UR Music and Arts and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which has been placed in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. Our show is supported by your decision to give the gift of UR Music and Arts Christmas package this holiday season. Our 2020 Christmas package costs €40 plus shipping, or $47 US plus shipping, and can be purchased directly at www.urmusicandarts.com/Christmas package, which I have just put in the chat room. Again, it's at www.urmusicandarts.com/Christmas package. Tonight, our featured guest is Natalia Villanueva García. Natalia is managing director and founder of Vienna's Max Steiner Orchestra, a symphonic orchestra that since 2013 performs classical and film music for recording sessions and live concerts. Before becoming that orchestra's manager, Natalia studied media composition at the University of Music and Performing Arts, Vienna. Also joining us tonight is Dr. Robert Greenberg, a composer, music historian, pianist, and since 1993, the #1 best-selling professor of courses made by the teaching company. Also joining us tonight is Professor Niels Moos, director of the Opera Masters program at the Music and Arts University of the City of Vienna, and Professor LINO Rivera of St. Mary's College of California. Natalia, welcome.
Hello, Simeon. Thanks for the invitation.
With pleasure. So you grew up in Colombia, in Bogota. You love Disney movies. Tell us about this love of Disney movies, how you got into it, and the love you had for the music.
Well, it was more the entertainment of the Disney movies, the funny parts. I was more interested in Pumbaa from Lion King and this part of the making people laugh. And I completely fell in love with the magic that Walt Disney was creating for children and adults. And I started...
How old were you when you first watched Disney? So when you were already very young?
I think we grew up, my generation, with all the Disney movies, and I was especially interested in why the music moves so many people. And then I started playing the songs in my piano by ear and playing them and trying to figure out how they are built, how they are constructed, why they are so funny, what are the similarities between others. So I was always interested in the structure and composition of the music.
Curiosity.
Yeah, I was very curious. Yeah.
And which movie and which, can you give us an example of a scene?
I think Lion King was especially the funny moments, or Aladdin, but the funny moment when they're dancing in the water I was especially attracted to the funny, the moments more than the romantic fairy tale, which is the famous parts. I was more attracted to the funny moments and how to make people laugh and how to entertain. Yeah.
And what happens in this moment in Aladdin when they're dancing on the water? What happens there?
They are trying, I don't know the name of these characters anymore, but are in the water, they're all trying for Ariel and the guy to kiss, and then they're singing a song to motivate them to kiss, and then I think they throw them away in the water. I don't know. I saw the movie last time when I was 13. I don't remember anymore, but I remember the feeling of being very entertained, and that was very interesting for me.
And in the music part, can you explain a little bit what happens, or if there was another scene or another interaction between the music?
Musically, you mean musically?
Mm-hmm.
No, I was only emotion drive when I was a child. No clue about musical structure. Mm-hmm. Later in the university, I will realize what structures trigger that emotion, or how we perceive couple of chord progression in some way. But as a child, I was only focused on how I felt, and then trying to figure out how to play that in the piano by myself.
And so what other music did you listen to growing up? Were your parents playing the piano? Were they listening to records? Did they watch the Disney movies with you?
Well, the Disney music, yes, but the other music I was interested, it was mostly my own discovery. Yeah. No, it was mostly me that started to develop interest for music and composition. My family is a family of entrepreneurs. They have companies. Mostly my grandmother in the she sell different kinds of products, from electronic devices to photography, to like an entrepreneur that has multiple products. And my mom has a production company for corporate events, very large corporate events. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial environment, zero music.
But you had a piano in the house.
I had
nevertheless.
a piano, yeah. My father, I didn't grow up with my father, but he and all his family, they are all musicians or make music somehow. So that's the blood part, the genetics. And my grandma always wanted one of my family members to play the piano. So as soon as I showed interest in piano, she was very happy. Like, finally someone in the family is playing an instrument. Yeah.
And so you were taking piano lessons, I imagine. And then when did you decide that you wanted to go to study music in Vienna?
Oh, actually, I wanted to study music in Italy. I don't know why that was in my head. Music in Milano, I thought the Scala. And my father lives here in Switzerland. I mean, I live in Vienna, and he lives in Switzerland. And he said, okay, I will come to visit. I was 16. And he said, let's go to Milano and check the university. And then we went to check, but it was 10 years composition studies. And the building was super boring and old and like dead. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to study here. So we went with a car back from Milano to Zurich, and we saw a sign saying Vienna. And he was like, do you want to go to Vienna? I was like, okay. And then when I came to Vienna, I will never forget the first picture I have at the Stevens Dome Cathedral. You go from the metro underground, and then you have, as soon as you go from the metro out, you see the huge cathedral. And in front of the cathedral, there are a lot of people selling tickets for concerts dressed like Mozart. But now you need to imagine, I am a 16-year-old girl living in the fairy tale of Disney. And I'm from Colombia. We don't have castles. We don't have beautiful buildings, but not as in Vienna. And when I go out of the metro and I see the huge cathedral with people dressed like Mozart, I was like, this is like the city of music. It was a very first picture. Of course, they were not musicians, they were not Mozart and so on, but from the surprise factor. And then I went to a tourist information point and asked where I can study music, if they know something about the education, and I went to the music university. And they had media composition. That was what I wanted. In Milano, they didn't. They only had classical music. And I definitely wanted to take an entertainment commercial approach in music, but I wanted to learn in Europe. Europe was very attractive for me, and the German culture and German language was always something special for me.
So what were your next steps? You were there in Vienna with your father after visiting Milan. And then you went to the university that the tourism service point sent you to, and then you applied. What happened?
No, I went back to Colombia and I said, my mother, I would like to live in Vienna in 2 years. And then she said, okay, but I need to organize everything, the university. And then, so I did everything. So they gave me the whole tools to do whatever I was necessary to study here.
So you get to Vienna and you start studying media composition. Tell us about you. Okay.
1 year German, and then you don't, in the music university in Vienna, you don't directly study media, or we have 3 different specializations: media, electronic music, or contemporary classical music. But first you need to study 3 years of only like theory, music theory. So whoever wants to study any composition specializations need to go to the first part, that is 3 years or 4, no, I forgot, something like that, 3 or 4. And then you are allowed to choose electronic music or contemporary music or media. And I chose.
What happened those first years? Tell us about what it was like studying and how everything went for the first years.
Well, for me, every day for the whole studies, when I went to the university, I remember looking at the building and thinking, wow, I cannot believe I'm here in Vienna really studying music. You go through, I remember when I went through some buildings, you find a flag from Vienna and you see Beethoven wrote here, whatever, Schubert wrote here, whatever, Mozart was here, whatever. So for me, coming from so far, if we want to dramatize, it was amazing. I felt blessed every single day. I'm still feeling blessed every single day, but in that moment, especially having the opportunity, also the opportunity that my family gave me to study here and to do what I dreamt doing, and to be admitted at the music university. That was also a peak moment. It was not, it was difficult exam, and I was studying whole year, and I had a lot of expectations, and of course you build a lot of fear if not, and when it happens you're like, oh my god, I cannot believe. So you really appreciate when you wanted so much, let's say like that. Yeah, so I was constantly feeling blessed.
And so tell us, but then you had a surprise already when you were 19 or 20. Tell us
I realized
about
that part of my biography of being on your descriptions. Yes, so life gave me a very amazing present. I have a 16-year-old son. In 3 weeks he will be 16, and I made admission exam of the music university whilst I was 3 months pregnant. So nobody could notice, and I also hid it and didn't tell anybody because I thought they will not admit me if I say I'm pregnant. I was scared. So nobody will notice it. And the exam was in June. And in October is the semester begins. So in October I was like, hello, I was pregnant, yes. But they were very supportive, everybody, super. Yeah, amazing teachers, I really need to say, through whole career. Very supportive. And
So you were 19.
Yes.
And you were pregnant. You were 3 months pregnant. What happened? How did you? It must have been terrifying when you found out that you were pregnant.
It was very terrifying. Yes. Yes. It was very terrifying. The first thing you think is, oh my God, my life is ruined, and I will not be able to study or do anything. But at the same time, it kind of triggers more the I will do it. So it has like a double effect. And then when you start feeling the baby and so on, it's a huge love you have, and then you just feel blessed too. And then you have an extra portion of strength. Yes. So
as a 19-year-old woman who's come to a foreign country, just learned the language, and you're far away from Colombia, your father, you said, lives in Switzerland, you can't really talk to anybody else about this situation, I imagine. You can't speak with, also, I don't think your mother had you when you were 19. What is it exactly that, I mean, how did you get the strength?
When I was born.
Okay, so you could talk to her about the situation then. But how did you
But
get the
when
strength?
my son was born, I was already 20.
Okay.
So it makes a big difference, 20. Yes.
So you were able to, did you have the strength yourself, or was it talking to other people, or, I mean, how did you?
I didn't thought a lot. I just think I was in a state of doing, and then for a lot of years till I realized what am I doing. And then I started thinking about what I did, and then thinking what I want to do. But in that state of mind was mostly doing, surviving, making it, showing that you can.
And do you think that that's possible for most women, or do you think you're exceptional, or what would you say to other young music students who find out that they're pregnant?
I think that being a mom or a father gives you strength. It just comes with it. I don't think is that some people have, some people don't. Is a gift from the universe. I don't know how to explain. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for talking to us about that. Obviously, the most personal conversation you can have. Now, tell us about, so you continue this study and you get into media composition. Let's have a look. Can we have a look at that video? We have this video of Natalia's music. So this was for a composition competition you did, and you
Yes.
said that instead of giving you a prize, they decided to make a new category because they said that wasn't music.
Yes, that was very funny. So let me explain you the story. I received from the university a competition to apply for a competition. And it was saying very clear, we're looking for young composers that do something different, not the same thing. And I was really into Stockhausen and Pierre Boulez, and I really like the whole thing of recording instruments and manipulating them so that you cannot tell anymore what it is. And I was like, okay, that's different, so I will do that. And I did what you heard and saw. And what I did was the flute, trombone, and my own voice, but not singing voice, the sounds I can make with my voice. You could recognize like the and all these things. So I did with the microphone all these sounds, and that's it. The only thing you hear is these three elements: flute and all the noises of the flute, trombone and all the noises of the trombone, and my voice. And that's it. And from, I don't know how many composers, I think 300, they chose 5 and invited to Poznan. Jan Kaczmarek is the founder of that festival. And from the 5, they chose the best 3 music. And they told me first, second, third prize they cannot give to me because that is not music. It's something special or something different. So I had a special mention. The other composers did, let's say, tonal music, or however we want to name that kind of music. Yes.
So let's now, this is a good time, it sounds like, to hear from Dr. Bob. So Dr. Bob, is it they had a bias because they wanted to hear from young composers who are composing in a certain language, tonal language, like Natalia says, or were they looking for a certain type of person and they didn't expect from a young Colombian girl to hear such music?
Simeon, I'm not going to answer that question because I can't put myself in the heads of these judges or what they were expecting. Certainly the electronic music we just heard complemented the nightmarish scene quite well and helped to make it what it was. And that's what I do want to talk about. But before I even mention film music, I just want to say, Natalia, I've been to Vienna many times. The last time was about 6 years ago at the age of 60. I still react the way you reacted at 16. Really? When I walk into St. Stephen's Square. Yeah, it's a magic place. Yeah. It's a magic place. And Brahms, when he moved to Vienna in the 1860s, would write home to Hamburg. He says, can you imagine? I'm having coffee where Schubert had his coffee. I'm drinking wine where Beethoven took his wine. I'm walking in the Prater where Mozart used to walk. You know, he never got over it, Brahms himself. So there's no way any sentient human being who loves music cannot fall in love with Vienna. It is a magical place. What I want to talk about very briefly, my daughter is almost your age. My eldest is, she'll be 35. And so when The Little Mermaid came out, which was the first of the new Disney musicals, I guess it was Menken and Ashman, Alan Menken and Howard Ashman did the music. She fell in love with that. And we had to watch that movie at least twice a week forever. And she memorized all the songs and sang them. And then as all the subsequent movies came out, Lion King, by the way, my favorite character in Lion King is Ed the hyena. I love Ed. I still do my Ed the hyena all the time. This is a hyena that's so stupid, everybody, that he actually starts eating his own paw until he's reminded, that's you. You're eating you, Ed. Stop it. What I loved about those movies, what she loved about those movies, is the same thing we love about opera, we love about musical theater, and that is musical storytelling. You know, a story is so much more effectively told, for me as a musician, with the addition of music. You know, folks who say that opera is stupid, theater is stupid, you don't just break into song. Well, why not? Children sing constantly when they play, and it's a natural thing to deepen emotion, to experience more profoundly by adding music. So what you were going through, what my daughter went through with the Disney movies, is the same process of musical storytelling that we've seen since the beginning of time. Liturgical dramas, early opera, even MTV. This whole idea of telling stories with music. And it strikes us at a very special place. And I think it's wonderful the way you tell the story about Disney, because it's so sweet and it's so natural.
So Natalia, tell us about media composition. What is that exactly? Like you said, you could do avant-garde composition or you could do media composition. What is it exactly?
Well, I would say anything that has a picture and you combine it or try to merge it with any sound, that through the combination makes something more than the sum of the parts. I will describe it like that.
And so after all those years, I think you studied, was 4 or 5 years. What did you, if you can say in a few words, obviously, which is impossible, what you learned or how you worked differently, how you composed differently after having studied, how would that be?
Well, I think the most important thing I learned is try to identify what function the music has, where is the place, the emotional place of the music, the first thing. And the second thing is timing, where knowing when to start, when to stop, and most important, when to not have music.
So it really has a lot to do already. You have an innate talent for that because you grew up looking and experiencing those moments of emotion, like you said.
Yes, but it was very childlike. It was an experience of a child. It was more magic. I think that describes more the fire that burned the desire than a real knowledge, let's say like that. The tools I learned at the university as a child, only magic.
And the magic in the fire, that doesn't play a role anymore in your career or in the work that you do?
No, for film music, now I start analyzing and thinking about the structure and I ruin the magic a little bit. Yes, that's true.
But if you would recommend to other media composition students, would you say try to keep that fire, try to keep that innocence, or do you think it's just impossible?
Because if you have a lot of curiosity, as I did, you want to know how exactly. And then once you know how exactly, you can stop being aware of that. So I think it's worthy. I really wanted to know how music is structured, and now I know. And now when I listen to a piece, I listen to the structure too.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So let's go on to see your work from today, which is a little bit different. So Natalia, now I understand that's not the music that you composed, but you are the person responsible for producing that concert. Tell us about the Max Steiner Orchestra and how in your mature career, you become an administrator, an executive, an entrepreneur.
Well, the producers of that concert were Red Bull. The name of the production is Red Bull Symphonic. And I founded the Max Steiner Orchestra in 2013. And I specialized in film music, but there was demand for an orchestra that would be open to play hybrid projects like the one you heard, drum and bass with classical instruments. So I became a little famous in the niche of pop commercial artists who wanted to perform with orchestra. So we did 2 MTV Unplugged, the very first MTV Unplugged with orchestra and pop artists from Austria and from Germany. We have done genre music here in Austria called Schlager, and most mixed pop commercial with orchestra. And the last example was drum and bass to Austrian DJs with orchestra. In addition to that, I also record films and library music for films or whatever they need the music for, the libraries. So I started my idea of film music orchestra, and the life gave me also the present of performing with commercial artists, as you just heard. So these are the clients I have that hire the Max Steiner Orchestra. And yes, that's more or less.
Fantastic. So I'd like to bring in Professor Niels Moos of the Music and Art University of the city of Vienna. If he could, please, Niels, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that hall where the Max Steiner Orchestra was performing under the auspices of Red Bull. Tell us about what music we would normally expect to hear in that hall.
Hi, Natalia. It's
Hi.
very nice to meet you. I think you're absolutely great. And of course, it's Konzerthaus. It's one of the 2 famous halls in Vienna. We have Musikverein, we have Konzerthaus, and they are both wonderful places. May I say something to what had been discussed before? I think that's very important to be said. You told us about your studies and having a child, and so I think it is not terrifying. We should all support young women who have children also when they study.
Yes.
No, it's very important for our society that we do that, and that young women should not have social fears or other fears by studying and having children. I am so much involved also in all this problematic in Japan and the demography of the society that's getting older. So I think we must always support that, and I think it's great to hear your story. About your competition also. Yes, we know Vienna. It's wonderful there's a person like you coming here, because in Vienna we have wonderful things in Vienna, and we have all the music history. We have the Beethoven, we have Brahms, we have the second Vienna school with Berg and Schönberg and Weber, and that has also gone on to Boulez, and so that it often takes the perspective and the innovation away from the music making here in Austria. And there, it's wonderful that people like you come in and do something completely different. I was so happy to see this project you had made there. Eh?
Thank you.
And it is music.
I know.
It is music. It is music. Stop it. All what they sit and make is not music.
It is.
But what you do is music.
that actually inspired me to do my, so when you are finished your studies, you need to do presentation, like a diploma presentation to finish your studies. And my topic was Sound Design als Kompositionsform. How would you translate that?
You should never translate that. It's very German.
Very German, but you can say like a composition form. Could you say that?
No,
yes. Okay. Yeah. So I actually went to argument how sounds are also music and so on, because they are composed and architectured in a way that is musical.
Yeah.
Was very fun.
It is. It's great that you're. It's great that you're here in Vienna. And may I say something personal also? I did look up who you are, and so, and if you look out of your window and I look out of my window, we'll look at each other.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's very funny. It's very funny with me here. But of course, my address is in a bigger street, but my house is in exactly your street.
Wow. That's a very funny thing.
It's extremely funny.
I'd like to ask, because Professor Moos, Professor Niels Moos, you brought up about how we should be, in general, as a society, supporting young women who are in a situation of pregnancy and having children. I believe that Professor Moos, you are actually working at the university where Natalia was at that time. What is it? What should be done? What should men do? What should women do? What can you give any examples? Can you make that any more concrete?
Yes, men and women should do what they have always done. but it's not the same university. Actually, we are the city university, and she studied at the state university. It is very important. I of course, I'm very much in the opera business, and I see a lot of women that don't get children and they wait, and then it's not only their studies, it's a career, and then they say, no, we cannot have children now, and we cannot, and then one day it is too late. And it is a tragedy, because a musical career is, for most people, only a part of their life. And that having a family, having children, having the whatever human race to continue is so important, and also for the happiness of the individual. And I'm sure Natalia, she will say I'm completely right.
Yes, totally. Yes.
In the United States, I would add to this that the issue is also childcare, which is the key to making this happen. And unless you have the money to hire someone to come to your home, childcare is a huge problem in the United States, and the nature of the businesses and the arts. I've got 4 kids, by 2 different wives. My first wife was an attorney, and yes, she would have put off having children forever based on the structure of the legal profession in the United States. Because if you're not willing to work 80 hours a week, you'll never get promoted. And there's no way a mother can work 80 hours a week. It can't be done, even with childcare. So I can't reinforce and agree with Niels more. We have to deal with women and the issues of women's issues way more sympathetically. We've got to make resources available and not ask women to be both women and men, to work like men, but to still bear the children. It's ridiculous. And it created huge problems in our lives when we had our kids early on, and nothing's changed. No one seems to learn anything from it.
I must say, Bob, if you can hear me, I must say that here in Europe, of course it's much easier. I know that, but we are also, my wife, and who's quite a big name in Japan, has also tried to push the government that it's more. It makes it much more easier to get children also, and to study and to have a career, because it is not the women's issue, it's our issue. Mm-hmm. It's our issue. Yeah. It's our problem, and we should do. That's how can I express it? It's the most sacred thing you can do is to get a child, also not only for yourself but also for society. And there we should really invest much more.
Okay, now we're going to come back to music.
Yes.
So let's have this next video of the Max Steiner Orchestra at work. Wow. So that's the Max Steiner Orchestra. That's tell us about that, Natalia. Tell us about why you founded it. Like you said, it's a niche orchestra, but what is the mission really? What's its main purpose? And what are we going to say about it in 100 years?
So I think this video really shows what my purpose is. It shows you an orchestra in a completely different way that you're used to. So I want to bring the new generation to listen to orchestras again, not to think about orchestras as boring and old and museum, like orchestra is probably like a museum. I want to bring orchestras to the new generations, the young people, and also not only for the public, also for the clients. Orchestras has very strict way of working inside. They have been working like that for many years. And I think the entertainment industry needs a different kind of work cooperation, and the way my company is legally built, it allows the client to make spontaneous requests, and I can spontaneously also answer yes or no. Whether if you have an orchestra that is an association, you need to ask more people. There's more steps between to make small decisions. It's not something gigantic or super important, but are little small details that make commercial entertainment industry requirements easier to fulfill, let's say.
Fantastic.
So that's what I want.
Let's check in with Professor Lino Rivera. Lino, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to congratulate Natalia for a successful career that she has. I also want to say that, during my undergrad years in the Philippines, one of my professors was actually a music film composer. And he has won a lot of these national awards for composing music for films. And I must say that I had been in studios wherein we were previewing films that are not yet completely done without all the music. And when he puts the music into it, I was there in the studio during the process. The music really enhances the scenes, the emotions, the ideas that the movie and the actors were trying to portray in the film. It's a very integral part. Because without the music, it is so dry as a bone, when there's just all the acting and the conversation of the actors. Now, I want to ask Natalia, with regards to the process of composition, there are so many possibilities. What instruments, what sound, what kind of timbre, what kind of tone color, what kind of rhythm. How do you distill? What's the initial process? For example, you have seen a scene in the movie, and what is the process in you saying, I'm going to use the trombone, or I'm going to use the flute, I'm going to use my voice? With all the tremendous possibilities, how do you come up with this is it? And how do you know that is the right decision?
Okay. So I think there's a big difference between Viennese school and USA. In the university in Vienna, we were encouraged to choose our elements very conscientious. So I was encouraged to choose a small set of elements and develop them. So what I would have done in an example, as you said, is read the script, or if the movie is already finished, watch the movie, and then try to pick 3 or 4 colors and stick with them. And then during the process of composition, discover what are the more color possibilities within that main color that I chose, which are the nuances or the different developments of that specific kind of, or which combinations. So I would have tried to, like you saw in the first example, I chose 3 colors and I used them like this, like that, like this, like this, like this, to let the colors to discover what the possibilities are. In USA, the way we are used to listen to other soundtracks like blockbuster movies, they use some more opera like leitmotif, like John Williams. They have another approach, which is the most popular approach. And I have never composed like that. I always go for the sound exploration rather than a melodic leitmotif, yeah.
Good. So since we have such an outstanding guest tonight who is incredibly, has such a vast career, such a vast experience, I do want to ask if any of the participants have any questions or comments. If you do, please just turn on your microphone and ask Natalia. She's here to answer your questions, hear your comments. She's here for that. Or you can write in the chat box if you're on Facebook, on Zoom, just write in a comment, a question, and Natalia and all of our panelists are here. So in the meantime, I'd like to ask Natalia this question, because you said, Natalia, that you arrived here at the city of Beethoven, of Schubert, of Brahms, how enchanting that was, of Mozart. so these are all men, obviously. They're gender, they're males. So you've, in your own way, just like at that competition, you know, you didn't go up against everyone. You in the normal way, you went up in your own way, and then they made special mention because they couldn't really categorize you. Is that now you have your MBA, you're the director, you're an executive at the very top echelons of the Viennese cultural industry. What is it that, what is your, how do you see a manager? How do you deal with this being from, like Niels said, more or less a man's world, a man's conservative society?
Yeah, it
Have
is.
that changed as it has?
It is not only my gender, also my age. People that I deal with are usually much, much older. So that's a bit difficult to make myself that be heard. To be heard is a bit more challenging than if I were probably a European man, 55. Probably it would be easier to be heard. But I have other skills that are also very a great advantage in the industry. So people who have worked with me know my way, and I think a huge respect part of my work is my composition studies. So when I have a composer coming, hiring my orchestra, and I make a couple of comments or we get to speak, they immediately know what I'm talking, that I know what I'm talking about. So that builds a basic peer-to-peer instead of, and music is also very emotional and very personal. So once you connect in the musical level, I can establish a peer-to-peer relationship with everybody instead of being less or more. Yes.
So, and I'd imagine that strategy. And I'd imagine that when you're working, so I imagine when you're working with other peers, then you also share, however, a common sensibility. So my question next would be then, how do you deal with discrimination? Because not everybody has such fine sensitivity.
Well, I think I am lucky. I have almost zero experience in discrimination. People are usually very, very nice to me. I think probably I usually expect the best out of people, and I think they feel that. I think because what come back to me is as nice as I expected. So I think that might be a little bit why. Yeah, I cannot complain. I have been very lucky. I have worked.
So Natalia, for the future then, how do you see your very young manager already have reached such a high level? What do you see for the future? What's your future for yourself, and what do you hope is your future for other managers in your industry in the future?
Well, right now I'm very, very curious about what's going to happen with the music and creative industry after the pandemic. So I have written my MBA master thesis in creative industry and management. So I did a little of creative industry research, a very, very tiny one, but still. And I also analyze a bit the economic system with that the creative industries are in. And I wrote that before I knew it was going to be a pandemic. And I wrote at the end, the system, the economic system must change in order of the creative industry to develop. And now, probably after 2 years of having no opera, no theater, and so on in 2022, I'm very curious what changes we will see in the creative industries, because it definitely cannot stay as it was before. It must be something new. How? I don't know. So I will probably join whatever newsness is going to come in 2022. And I'm excited what new ideas have been born through this whole crisis. Although I think every crisis is a birth.
If I could just in, this is a concern for all of the artists, performing artists all over the world. We all know we are in the same situation right now with Bob, with me. All of our concert performances are canceled or postponed, and we're hoping for the best. And we have to find a solution as how we can recreate our lives as performing artists after the pandemic.
I agree.
Mute buttons. To add to that, because this is something that Natalia said that is interesting as well. Having gone through the pandemic, will something new and different emerge that would not have otherwise emerged without the pandemic? Is this just going to be a historical blip, and we'll talk about it in later years as, you know, the pandemic? Or will this allow us to reappraise certain aspects of what we do, whether we're composers or creators or performers or producers? It remains to be seen, you know, if this is going to make us rethink what we're doing, or if we're just going to fall back on the bad old habits as they've existed.
Yes. I'm really hoping something new will emerge.
Fingers crossed.
So Natalia, anyways, I wanted to ask you if and when you find out the answer, we'd like very much that you come back and you tell us. And even if you don't have that answer, we want you to come back in 2021 to come back on the show. So is it okay? Can we see how to stay in touch with Natalia, please, in the meantime? There it is, Max Steiner Orchestra. And that's easy enough, maxsteinerorchestra.com. So the orchestra, we can see your concerts. Is that right, Natalia? And see what you're up to, see what...
And also Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Very easy, okay. Max Steiner Orchestra.
Wonderful. And then we can contact you directly. Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
You will answer our questions.
Like that. Or my email is there, natalia@maxsteinerorchestra.com.
Wonderful. Okay, beautiful. So there we have it. Natalia is available to you and there to answer your questions, to talk about media composition, all that stuff.
All topics.
All topics, like we've covered tonight. All topics.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so thank you very much, Natalia. Thank you for your giving us such an intimate portrait of you, such an inspiring portrait, like I'm sure only you can. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
So Juan Carlos, I believe, has sent us a missive from Cartagena, Colombia, because he's traveling. So let's take a look and see what Juan Carlos Echeverri is up to.
Hello, dear friends and amigos of You Are Music and Arts. I'm in Cartagena today, of course, having a coffee. And this is not the coffee region. This is the most touristic city in Colombia. It's a beautiful colonial city, very hot weather. And I wanted to say to you that we should all help You Are Music and Arts by getting this Christmas package. The info will be in the websites, and you can get some coffee from our finca, from our farm, and also some great music. So please do that. Cheers and thank you.
Thanks very much, Juan Carlos. There we have it right there. There it is. yourmusicandarts.com/Christmas package, 40 euros plus shipping, or $47 plus shipping. All you have to do, click add to the cart. You get 2 packages of 250 grams of coffee and Simone Kopfmeyer's 2020 just released Christmas CD, which if that's not enough, has been signed by her, autographed, just for our participants of UR Music and Arts. So Simone Kalkmeyer, as we know, she is a jazz singer and she's a member of our community. So please do give this gift to your friends and family. urmusicandarts.com/Christmas package. All you have to do, click add to the cart. We look forward to many orders. Let's take a look at next week now. Marina Lennick and Natalia Mount, Photography and the Visual Arts in Society. That's next Wednesday. Photography used to be a messy business, the dark room of which few ever dirtied their hands in. Today, just as few seem to remember that era and how strikingly different its rules were, just ask the Eastman Kodak Company. Like in almost every profession, quote, experts, those willing to get the whole of their hands dirty, have been replaced by gratuitous, quote, Google searches, the prerequisite of which, as they say, is, quote, a phone and a finger. So it's no surprise that the line between professional photographers and amateur photographers is blurry to most of us. Besides earning money from photography, what makes a professional photographer professional? And can you see it in the photos? Marina Lennick, an aspiring photographer who studies at Université Lumière Lyon 2, will present her work and discuss it with expert photographer Bob Viguera, who, over the course of his 40-year career, has had his work featured in the world's most prominent newspapers, journals, and motion pictures. Natalia Mount, curator of Oakland's Pro Arts Gallery and Commons, comes from a much different perspective, that of criminal justice. It was an internship at New York City's MoMA PS1, an art institution that is entirely dedicated to contemporary art, that she decided to change course and use her career to promote art in society. Natalia has worked ever since as an entrepreneur, founding galleries and commissioning new art. For the past 5 years, she has been curator of Pro Arts Gallery and Commons in Oakland, California. During her mandate, rather than building up new walls, she has been busy tearing down old ones, engaging the community at large, and promoting art as an integral part of society might very well describe her vision. So you're asking, what kind of explosion happens when Marina and Bob, classic cool-headed photographers, meet with Natalia's passionate advocacy for artistic argument? It doesn't take an expert to tell you that it's sure to be colorful. Come welcome Marina, Bob, and Natalia and find out for yourself. So thank you so much to Natalia Villanueva García, our other Natalia, to Dr. Bob, to Professor Lino Rivera, Professor Niels Moose, to our superhero production team, and of course, to you, our participants, without whom none of this would be worth it. From Vienna, Austria, from the Bay Area, California, and from Cartagena, Colombia, goodbye. See you next week.